All right, well, I need you to turn to page 26 in your supplements. And we did the first 7 problems. It was really one big problem, right? Number 1 through 7 was kind of one big problem that all got broken down into smaller parts. That's how 8 through 12 is as well. It's kind of one big problem. I want to work through it here. And tax credits is something we really hadn't addressed yet, so I want to address it now. Page 8, or not problem 8, excuse me, on page 26. And go ahead and read, if you would, problem 8, nice and loud for me there, Jalen.
Bob's coworker John also makes $3,600 each month before taxes. Because he has a wife and 2 children, John only has $158.34, oh my goodness. Cents taken from his paycheck each month. A, what is John's gross annual income? B, how much total tax is deducted from his paycheck each year?
All right. Now, this does not account for FICA tax. Remember, this page was before we talked about FICA taxes. So we're only looking at income tax here. There's 2 parts. First of all, if he's making $3,600 each month, what's his gross annual income? And then also, if $158.34 is taken out every month, how much total tax is taken out over the course of the year? So at your seats, go ahead and find those first 2 answers for number 8. 2 answers there for number 8. Go and find both of them. Make sure you write them down. And let's get our first answer. Part A, John's gross annual income. From Bryson. What you got there, Bryson?
So 43,000.
How many had the same first answer? Gross income, 43,200. Anyone notice that's the same as the answer to number 1? Because Bob and John are both making the same amount of money, so it makes sense they both have the same gross income, wouldn't it? All right. Now, the part that's going to be different, though, is taxes already paid. Right? Every month, $158.34 held out of his paycheck for 12 months. This has been going on. How much tax has already come out and gone to the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service? Ben?
$1,908.
Dollars.
$8.
There we go. $1,900.08. How many had that answer the same also? Are there any questions on problem 8? Yes.
Okay. My mind completely blank. How did you get that last answer?
It's by month, so times 12, by month times 12.
Oh.
Right? $158.34 every month, so over the course of a year, it's going to be $1,900.08.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Number 9. Go ahead and read that for us now, if you would. Let's have Joel read it.
Because John has no retirement account or other investments, his adjusted gross income is equal to his gross annual income. He claims the standard deduction of $27,700. What is his taxable income?
All right. Now remember, investments, retirement accounts, all of these things change the gross income to what we call the adjusted gross income. Do you remember that? If you make a little extra money in this or make money there, you put money aside there, it all affects your gross income. But he doesn't have any investments, and he doesn't have any retirement account. So his adjusted gross income is his gross income. Does that make sense? If there's nothing to adjust, then it's just your gross income. But he claims the standard deduction, because remember, he's married, so he gets a standard deduction of $27,700. That's 2023 fiscal year standard deduction. It'll probably be different in a couple of years. But for now, it's $27,700. That's what I get. That's what all married people get in America. What is his taxable income? All right, I need to volunteer. What do I need to do to figure out how much of his income is taxable? Joel?
You subtract 43,200 by $27,700.
Good. We take 43,200 and we subtract the deduction, 27,700. How much of his income is actually going to be taxable. Jalen's already got it. Give the rest of you just a moment. All right, Jalen?
$15,500.
All right, he's only paying taxes on $15,500. Has everyone got that? Okay, so gross income $43,200, but he's only going to pay taxes as if he made $15,500 because of that standard deduction. Now, look up if you would at number 4. Do you see Bob's taxable income? He's not married, so his taxable income is $28,700. Do you see that he's then right below that in the 12% tax bracket? Does everyone see that? For number 4's answer, and look below that, you see how he was paying 12%. Well, because John, and this assumes, by the way, his wife has no income, okay? So it assumes she's like my wife, she doesn't really have income, so he's the provider. So he gets the big deduction, and there's no wife's income to add to it, right? If his wife was working, have to add her income to that other gross income also. So look at compare number 9 and number 4. You see how little number 9 is compared to number 4? That puts him in the lowest tax bracket. He's only paying 10%. Does everyone see that? The less you make, the lower bracket potentially, and he does. So he's only in the 10% tax bracket. So how much tax then does he owe? Number 10. Based on his taxable income, which is only $15,500, he's required to pay 10% of his taxable income in federal income tax. How much does John owe? Griffin, what you got?
For
number 10.
1,550.
Anyone able to do it without a calculator? Just remember 10% means a tenth. A tenth. Divide by 10, knock a zero off. Right? So $1,550. That's the nice thing about the 10%. It's easy, just knock a zero off and you got 10%. All right, so class, how much does he owe? $1,550. How much has already come out of his paycheck? $1,908. Okay, so number 11, do this at your seats. Based on 8B, how much total tax has already been deducted, and number 10, how much tax he owes, how much of a tax refund does John deserve? How much of a tax refund does John deserve to receive? And we'll get it from Luciana.
So I got $3,458.08.
Wowzers. Okay, so how much tax does John owe the government?
$1,550.
Right, but look at number 8B. How much tax was already taken out all year long?
$1,908.
Do you see that they took out more tax than he owes? They took out $1,900, but he only owes $1,500. Does that make sense? So you don't add those two amounts. He only owes this much. He's already paid this much. It's like, for instance, if you buy something and he got overcharged. He got overcharged. The government took too much of his money. They should have only taken this much. They took that much. So what should I do to find his refund?
Subtract.
There we go. Good. Let's subtract those numbers. Kirsten? Number 11, what was your answer? Oh, I thought you were volunteering for the answer.
I was, but I accidentally pressed it.
Oh, you cleared it off your calculator, Bryson.
$350.
How many had $350.08? Good. Okay. That's how much of a refund, class, he deserves. But remember I mentioned he has 2 kids. And also, he's a low-income earner. He's in the lowest tax bracket. When you're in the lowest tax bracket, you get what are called tax credits. Read number 12. And for people in low tax brackets, with children, this problem number 12 is a real blessing. Elaine, read it nice and loud.
John is receiving tax credits for his 2 children. He and his wife received $6,000 in an earned income credit given to low-income earners with children, and an additional $4,000 in a child tax credit. What will John's tax refund actually be?
All right, remember what a tax credit is. It's where the government acts as if you've already paid this much. Do y'all understand the term credit? When something is credited to you, it's as if you did it. For instance, we would say as Christians that salvation, God's righteousness, is credited to our account. It's as if we have God's righteousness. You know me. You know I don't. But legally before God I do, because Christ took my place. He imputed his righteousness. He credited that to me. Credited means you get credit for something whether you did it or not. Did he pay $6,600 in taxes, class?
No.
But he gets credit as if he did. Did he pay an extra $4,000 for his kids? No, but he gets credit as if he paid it. And he already is getting a refund. But they act as if he paid $6,600. They act as if he paid $4,000. So all of that money that was credited to him now has to also be refunded to him. He's already getting this. They're also going to give him back the $6,600 he didn't actually pay, but he's credited as if he paid it. And the $4,000 that he never paid, but he's credited as if he paid that too. Now, for him, this is great. For the national debt, this isn't so good, okay? Because all it's doing is making the national debt worse when you're crediting people with something they didn't pay in the first place. But for John and his wife and 2 kids, this is a huge blessing. How much of a refund? The guy only ever paid $1,900 in taxes, right? But his refund is enormous. How much does he actually get in a tax refund? Hey, Kirsten wants this one.
$10,950.08.
$10,950.08. Wow. You say, so you paid $1,900 in taxes all year and you get a refund of $10,000? That's how tax credits work. Deductions reduce your taxable income. Credits actually add on to what you have. Now, let's suppose that these numbers were a lot different. Let's suppose this was like $343,200, okay? Let's just say this is a really, really rich dude. And suppose he'd already paid like $41,900 in taxes. And suppose his taxable income was, let's say $315,500. And so he, by the way, he'd be in like the 28% tax bracket or something obscene like that. So his taxes owed would be like $100,000 or something. Okay, let's just say hypothetically owed $100,000. He already paid this much. If this is how much he owes, he still owes more, doesn't he? Yeah. If and again, these are purely hypothetical numbers. It would have been way bigger than this actually. But let's just say hypothetically that this had been how much he owed, but he only paid this much. Well, he's behind, isn't he? If this is how it had been, he'd be way behind. He'd be owing, what, $58,100 to the IRS? He would owe $58,100. Now, he wouldn't get the earned income credit because he's not poor, okay? But he would still get the child tax credit. And so the IRS would look at him and say, it's as if you've already paid us $4,000. Well, in his case, then how much would he owe, class? $54,100. Right? So if you're a high income person, the tax credit isn't like free money. I know it feels like free money in this problem, but if you're a high income earner, it's not necessarily free money. It just takes that number down a little bit lower for you. But when you're already kind of down there, especially taxable income only that much, yeah, it ends up adding up pretty quickly. Does that make a little sense on the tax credit? Because that was the one thing we hadn't seen in any of the other problems that I wanted to go over with you. All right, do we feel like we're starting to get the idea of adjusted gross income versus taxable income? Tax you pay throughout the year, and then the taxes you owe, how to compare those numbers. Questions on that? All right, that'll wrap up this segment then.